So let me elaborate in more detail. We will need more participation of industries in design and development. We will need more innovation by startups and MSMEs. As an organization becomes larger, it necessarily becomes bureaucratic, whether it is a government organization or a private sector, because you need structures to manage the organization. So innovation is usually given the short shift. If you need innovation to come in quickly, you have to promote startups and MSMEs who are small, flexible, nimble, and you have to encourage them to do this innovation, but you have to absorb that innovation in a larger organization so that it can be sustained. The startups cannot sustain for 10 years, 15 years, and their mindset also is to move from one innovation to another. So we have to establish strong mechanisms where we respect their IP, which they create. You have to reward them for their IP. You have to absorb what they have done and use them in your systems which you are developing. Unless we build this framework, we are going to struggle. We have to involve academia in basic and applied research and futuristic technologies. As I said, academia was involved with DRDO for a long time, but it was more in a support role, not in a role where they are generating technologies which are needed. See, DRDO doesn't have the bandwidth to look at very advanced technologies, very futuristic technologies, because we are busy in designing, developing, and trying to deliver prototypes to our services. You need people with the bandwidth who can look at really futuristic technologies if you have to. And at low TRL levels, the academia should be able to work independently. We need to create test facilities and infrastructure. Unfortunately, this is an area which we have ignored in the country. One of the significant reasons, I will say not the only reason, is in our aero engine program, we didn't create the necessary facilities which are necessary to test the aero engine. We didn't create facilities to test the subsystems on their own. We didn't create the high altitude test facility. We didn't create the flying test bed necessary to test the engine. So every iteration became a very long cycle. We cannot afford to make the same mistakes in the future if we have to become a technology leader. And these infrastructure are very costly to create. This infrastructure utilization is never 100%, so its utilization is usually 20%, 30%. But these are needed, and only the government can invest in these. No private sector will invest in creating infrastructure. So we need to create this infrastructure, make this infrastructure available to our industries to use it, to our academia to use it, of course at a fee. We have to do this, otherwise we will remain as we are today. As I have mentioned repeatedly in my talk, capacity building is lacking, and one of the reasons is because of our acquisition procedures, which doesn't encourage capacity building. As I said again earlier, we have to emphasize on disruptive technologies. Otherwise, achieving technology leadership is going to be difficult. And civil-military fusion, and I'm glad to say here things are changing. Now, DRDO as well as services are becoming part of all our national missions, such as the AI mission, the quantum mission, the semiconductor mission. So this is a good change that is happening in the country. We can absorb what is happening in those civil missions and incorporate those technologies which are being developed in those missions at an early stage in our systems. So at DRDO, we are also alive to these changes that are happening, and we are trying to see how we can play a role in driving the R&D ecosystem to what is desirable. So we have decided that we will take up all our mission mode projects only with a development cum production partner. Earlier, we are doing it with one DCPP. In all our new projects, we are partnering two industries. And these industries are chosen purely on a technical and economic criteria. So there is no distinction between a private sector and a PSU. We are trying to propose to the DAC that we should have one PSU partner and one private sector partner, and hopefully this will be accorded approval in the DAC whenever this is put up. So we have identified more than 100 DCPPs today, and we hope that by partnering with us right from the design and development cycle, you will have a host of industries who have capabilities in design and development, and subsequently they will be able to take up all the upgradation of those systems, all the life cycle support, obsolescence management which is necessary during the life cycle on their own, which will free up DRDO scientists to take up more complex systems and more complex technologies which the country needs. Earlier, we were fairly restrictive in our transfer of technologies, but today we have opened up our TOTs. More than 2,000 TOTs have been done. Any industry which wants to acquire TOT from us, if it can prove to us that they have the necessary technical expertise to absorb the technology, we are now awarding them our TOTs. We have opened up all our IPs to Indian companies free of charge. They can take our IP, build on it, and make products. We have, like IDEX within DDR&D or DRDO, we have started a technology development fund. Earlier, this fund was being used primarily to fund indigenization or low-end R&D. But recently, Honorable Raksha Mantri has given us permission to do high-end R&D, cutting-edge R&D through this, where we have to define the risk in the beginning. If we can define, like DARPA, if we can define that this is a very high-risk project where failures can happen or success rate can be less than 20–25%. Raksha Mantri had formed a committee under Dr. Saraswat and Dr. Kakodkar, and they have come up with a set of recommendations on how we can go ahead and fund cutting-edge R&D. So hopefully this will change the way we were funding earlier, and hopefully this will result in cutting-edge R&D being done by startups and MSMEs in the country. To promote innovation, we are also running what is known as Dare to Dream contests, where we give challenging problems. Here, they don't have to actually make a prototype. They can just think about a solution which can meet those challenges. And if the winner thinks that he wants to take forward that solution, we can fund the winners through the TDF mechanism to realize his vision or dream into a reality. We have also opened up all the DRDO test facilities through a transparent mechanism through the DGQA website. Anybody can book our test facilities at a very nominal fee decided by the government. And I'm glad to say that more than 2,000 industries or more than 600 industries have already utilized it, and the number is increasing very rapidly. In fact, in our test range PXC, DRDO's tests are less than 10%, and 90% tests are done by industry, PSUs, as well as the services. Our drone testing facility, in Chitradurga, is also getting a lot of interest from the private sector. As I said, we also need to build a talent pool in the country working in defense R&D. So we have tied up with Ministry of Education to fund PhD scholars working in defense technologies. More than 40 students, 39 students have already started working on defense-related problems which have been identified commonly by that institution and DRDO labs, so that we will have a talented pool available which can then be, or which are then ready to be absorbed, if not in DRDO, in the industry, which is now getting into R&D. We have started MTech in defense technologies in 40 private universities, institutes, and this has started from 2021. We are also talking to IITs to see if some electives can be offered in the BTech itself to help generate interest in the students to work in these challenging areas. We also offer internships to BTech, MTech, and MSc students in our laboratories to do their BTech projects or MTech projects. And this is really working out very well. Our labs are also finding that the brightest students are coming in, and within that short period of 3 to 6 months, a lot of very important or a lot of very challenging problems are getting solved. So this is, we are encouraging all our labs to increase the number of internships. The government has also recently started a paid internship program, and we are utilizing it to the maximum to our benefit. So increasingly, DRDO's focus will shift to complex systems. We want to leave all the incremental systems to our industry to work on. In fact, we have committed to Honorable Raksha Mantri that we will take up mission mode projects only when DPB or DAC approves it. If there is an industry capable of developing a system, DRDO will not take up that system. We will focus on the next generation systems. So these are some of the, I will not read the list, but these are some of the platforms we are planning to take up in the next couple of years. Some have already been started. The next generation weapon systems and sensors I have listed out. Our focus in the missile technology is increasingly shifting to hypersonic missiles, because that is the future. With the improvements in air defense systems, if your missiles have to reach the target, they have to become hypersonic. We are working on hypersonic glide missiles as well as hypersonic cruise missiles. And all the critical technologies necessary to develop such missiles, such as the ultra-high temperature materials, the scramjet propulsion technology, all are being addressed within the laboratories. The electromagnetic railgun technology is again also a very critical technology. This again is the next generation of guns and artillery, and we are looking at developing this technology. There the main challenge is the supercapacitor technology, where you have to be able to store high energy and release them at in a very short time. Of course, the high thrust to weight ratio aero engine This has been one of the, as I mentioned earlier, engine technology has been one of our limitations in the country. Although the Kaveri engine program was taken up in the late 80s, and we achieved a thrust of 70 kilonewton, which was not sufficient for the light combat aircraft. The learnings from that engine technology are now being utilized to make the small turbofan engine for our cruise missiles. We are also using the dry part of the Kaveri engine for our unmanned combat aerial vehicle, which we are going to take up. But now we need, for our fighter aircrafts, we need to develop the 5th or 6th generation aero engines, which we plan to take up in collaboration with a foreign partner to lower the risks for this development. And hopefully the government will give us the go-ahead for this program very soon. As I said, the nature of warfare is changing. We need to build capabilities in underwater domain awareness. As you are aware, India is a long coastline, and the underwater threats are very difficult to detect. We have to work on this capability, not only platform-based detection of submarines, but detection of submarines from space, from fixed underwater sensors. This is going to be one of the key needs for the country going ahead. Space situational awareness. Space is increasingly getting weaponized. You have to be constantly aware of what is threatening your space assets. So for that, you need to build space situational awareness and the ability to respond to protect your space assets. So this is again an area where we are building strengths. ISR, of course, is going to become increasingly important, and Honorable Prime Minister has, in his Independence Day speech, mentioned about Operation Sudarshan Chakra. The first step of Sudarshan Chakra is to be aware of all the threats that you are going to encounter. Cyber defense and deterrence is again a capability which is needed as of today, because India, as you are aware, is one of the most attacked countries in the cyber domain. And as I said, before the next conflict, all your critical cyber infrastructure, your power infrastructure are going to face threats. And if you don't have the capability for protection as well as deterrence, you are going to suffer in the next conflict. So this is an area where we are building our capabilities. Secure communication, because with quantum computing at our doorstep, all your encryptions are going to be very susceptible. So unless you work on post-quantum cryptography and secure your communication, your next conflict is going to be very challenging to address. So this is again an area where DRDO is increasingly focusing on. Network and AI-enabled command and control, because with the number of threats which are simultaneously being launched at you, it is not possible for humans to take decisions. You have to move towards an AI-enabled decision support system, and in most cases, not only a support system, the ability to take decisions based on guidelines, of course, and some safety norms, but we have to move towards this capability. Otherwise, we will face challenges again. And ballistic and hypersonic missile defense capability. This is again part of the mission Sudarshan Chakra, and this capability again would be necessary in the future if we have to grow if we need our economy to grow, we have to ensure that we have these capabilities so that no one attacks us. So some of the new and critical technologies that we are looking at, again, it's a long list, I will not read it out. But to have equivalent of a startup ecosystem within DRDO, we have started 5 young scientists labs where every member, including the director, is below the age of 35 years. We have started these centers in these disruptive technology areas such as AI, cognitive technologies, advanced materials. And we are hoping that these will be the seeds within the DRDO ecosystem to promote the innovative thinking, the new age thinking that is necessary. This year we plan to start one more young scientists lab in the area of manned-unmanned teaming, which we feel is an area which is very important in the next 3 to 5 years. We have also come out with a list of technologies that we think are going to be very important for the future, and we have listed it out on our website so that academia can also start looking at these technologies and start trying to develop on their own. And we have formed DRDO Industry Academia Centers of Excellence. We call them DRCOEs. And these are in prominent academic institutions in the country. So these are different than the academic interactions that we were having in the past, where they were proposing projects and we used to fund them. So this is a top-down approach where at low TRL levels, the academia works more or less on its own, of course with mentoring and supervision of the laboratory scientists. And as the TRL moves towards 3 to 4, then the academia and the DRDO laboratories work together on that same project as it advances. And as it reaches 6, then the industry also comes in. So we hope that with this, the entire chain of starting from an idea to realizing a final product which can get inducted, get shortened. So this is a new model which we are trying out, and I can say that it is starting to show results. This we started in about 2020 or so, and in some of our DIACOEs, for example in IIT Delhi, we have been able to produce the gratings which are needed for our directed energy weapon systems. These gratings we were earlier dependent on foreign countries and they were getting denied. But because of this collaborative approach, now Bharat Electronics is working with IIT Delhi in the facilities that DRDO has created in IIT Delhi to produce these gratings in the numbers that are needed for our DEW. We have also been able to make a very lightweight bulletproof jacket for our armed forces using this DIACOEs. So this model is starting to pay dividends. And this is a hub and spoke model. For each center of excellence, we have identified certain domains, but it does not restrict that only that academic institution can work in those domains. So it's a hub and spoke model. Each of these domains, the hub is in that particular DIACOE, but any academic institution in the country can propose their projects, their ideas to this DIACOE and get a project sanctioned. But then the monitoring happens at a common place. So we hope that these DIACOEs will transform into the MITs and the Stanfords in the US, which created an ecosystem of innovation and technologies around them in the US. We hope that these DIACOEs will also create similar hubs in the country. So I'll not get into the domain areas for each of those. We have also told the government that these facilities which are necessary for all these advanced technology development and systems have to be created and funded by the government. And I'm glad to say that Honorable Raksha Mantri has promised us that over the next 5 years, DRDO's budget will increase to 10% of the defense R&D budget. So this will enable us to create these kind of facilities which are necessary if you have to do this advanced development. So let me briefly summarize. I have given you the challenges that we face today. Based on the evolving scenario, what we think we should do, and also the steps that DRDO is taking so that we are in the right direction. The road is not going to be easy, but I am sanguine that with the kind of impetus that exists today in the country, the kind of, I think, Operation Sindoor and India's performance in Operation Sindoor also has given a lot of excitement within the country. There are a lot of youth who are now interested in working towards, working for defense R&D. I'm sure in the next 15, 20 years, we will become Atmanirbhar. We will, if not the best in the world, we should be competing with the best in the world in the next 15, 20 years. So with these brief words, let me thank you for your kind attention, and Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir. May I request the Chief of the Air Staff and Air Chief Marshal R.K. Bahaduria, sir, to kindly come on a stage and do the honor for guest speaker. May I now request that SBI team and AVM Ashok Saini, sir, to kindly come on a stage. I request the Chief of the Air Staff to honor them as being the co-host of this event. Respected ladies and gentlemen, आप सभी का हार्दिक अभिनंदन एवं सुप्रभात. It is indeed heartening to see the galaxy of distinguished guests and members of the serving and veteran fraternity. We just heard the very impressive talk delivered by Dr. KAMAT. It is my proud privilege and true honor to extend our heartiest thanks to our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. SAMIR V. KAMAT, Secretary, Department of Defense, R&D, and Chairman, DRDO, who graciously accepted our request to deliver the lecture. Sir, the nation at large and the armed forces in particular deeply revere your remarkable contributions. Under your visionary leadership, DRDO's materials programs have delivered breakthrough and that have significantly strengthened India's defense capabilities. I am sure all present here will agree with me that listening to your enlightening talk, we are feeling more knowledgeable and better informed. Really grateful, sir. As is one cherished tradition of AFA, I request the August gathering to give a big round of applause to the speaker. Thank you, sir. I'm extremely happy to mention that this time we have got the State Bank of India as our co-host. We truly admire and appreciate the initiative taken by the management of State Bank of India. The Air Force Association is deeply grateful to the SBI Chief General Manager, Delhi area, Mr. Debashish Mishra. Unfortunately, he is not present here today. Mr. Asim Abhishek Das, Chief Manager, SBI Subroto Park Branch, and Mrs. Priyanka Tripathi, Chief Relation Manager, Defense Banking, SBI, for generously sponsoring this event. We sincerely thank veteran Air Vice Marshal Ashok Saini, VSM, Defense Banking Advisor, SBI, for his untiring efforts and continued support to the veterans' cause. Thank you very much, sir. We extend warm gratitude to Shri Robelal, son of Air Chief Marshal P.C. Lal, and Mrs. Gopa Chanda, daughter of Air Chief Marshal P.C. Lal, for rendering the moral support. Unfortunately, today they could not attend the function due to prior family commitments. My sincere thanks to our former chiefs who have served as past presidents of Air Force Association for honoring us with their gracious presence and for their steadfast support to the welfare and causes of veteran fraternity. Thank you, sir. On behalf of the Air Force Association and all veterans present here, we gratefully acknowledge the presence of the most distinguished leader, Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh. Sir, under your command, all the air warriors brought glory to the Indian Air Force during Op Sindoor. The whole world knows about it, and we are proud of your achievements. We also convey our heartfelt thanks to AOCNC Western Air Command, AOCNC Maintenance Command, and the AOA for their unstinted support. I'll fail in my duty if we don't convey our special thanks to AOC AFND, Director Air Force Auditorium, and Mess Secretary Akash Officers Mess for their unflinching support to hold this event in the most befitting manner. Last but not the least, AFA extends heartfelt thanks to all serving air warriors and veterans present here today for being such a supporting and encouraging audience. Thank you, one and all. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us for a cup of tea in the foyer area of the auditorium. Jai Hind, thank you.